Jeb Bush and the Donald burning up the interwebs today. Anchor babies are the topic du jour, and Donald and Jeb each have different ways of handling that issue. Let's take a look at what Jeb Bush had to say about this controversial term.
What I was talking about was the specific case of fraud being committed where there's organized efforts, and frankly, it's more related to Asian people coming into our country, having children, in that organized efforts, taking advantage of a noble concept with his birthright citizenship.
Here to discuss with us is John Hawkins of Right Wing News. John, welcome. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Gina, thank you so much for having me on.
John, your reaction to Jeb Bush's remarks?
Well, what was happening was Jeb was trying to copy Donald Trump, who talked about anchor babies, and because Jeb has a charisma level somewhere between drunk Hillary Clinton and sleepy Al Gore, he came up and did that. So it just didn't work very well, and that's what happened. It was a mess because Jeb is really not a good politician.
All right, Trump released that new campaign ad that I also want to get your comments on. Here we go.
Would you like to see him run?
No, I really don't. I think it's a great country. There are a lot of great families. There are other people out there that are very qualified, and we've had enough Bushes.
So do you think it's fair, John? I mean, you know, using a guy's mom against him, I don't know about that. What do you say?
I think it's completely fair. I thought the hilarious part was when she was talking about how there should be other families who deserve it. And it flashed Trump's family up on there, which I thought was hilarious. It's a very Trump ad, and I liked it. I don't see anything wrong with saying that because what she's saying is true. Peggy Noonan, who I rarely say anything nice about because not a big fan, but she wrote a brilliant column the other day saying, hey, if every election's going to come down to the same two families, couldn't they at least be talented people who are all better than the rest of us? Instead, we're stuck with the Bushes and the Clintons. How did we get stuck with this mess?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of historians could answer how we ended up with dynasties because I think that they keep doing the bidding of the elite in Washington, D.C., and that's why they continue to get the nominations. But hopefully just the Trump factor alone, even if he doesn't run, John, I think that I feel hopeful just that he got in this race and he survived the storm that hit him, which was the pounding of the elite and the elite media, the elite politicians and the elite media, and frankly, a lot of Wall Street. So do you think that he will last up until the end, John, or do you think he's really just a factor that's going to play its way out of this game and perhaps have emboldened people who are just looking for someone a little more raw and honest?
Donald Trump is such an X factor that it's very hard to say what's going to happen.
It is.
I mean, I liked Donald Trump before he got into this. I respected him as a businessman, read his books, liked him. I never thought he would do this well. He's doing very, very well. His numbers are staying up there high. In fact, they're going up. Some of these polls are now showing him in the 30s. And they're finding that his support is very, very durable. I think he can hold in there. Now, the thing that could take him down, and I've been saying this for a while, I think the biggest thing that could hurt him is Donald Trump. These little controversies he keeps getting into, like with McCain, with Megyn Kelly again, over time, those things can wear him down. That and the possibility that when he starts coming out with his positions, his immigration plan, beautiful. It was an absolute masterpiece. Will it be the same on all these other positions? We don't know yet. So it's so hard to tell how this thing's going to play out. And I think anybody who tells you for sure, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, they don't know what they're talking about. Trump is just an X factor.
Really, and one that we've really not seen the likes of really before in history. But then again, we haven't had reality TV play such a major role in our elections before. We haven't had, late night talk shows. We haven't had even social media play such a role as they play now. So I think that that's what has given him sort of the perfect storm. All right, he got an endorsement today that he wasn't really looking for. David Duke, the former KKK leader. Does that hurt Trump, John, do you think?
Well, you know, Reagan got endorsements like that from people who weren't very credible that you really don't want endorsements from. I'm sure well, who knows if the Democrats love getting the Communist Party's endorsement every year, which is just as bad. But, you know, Ronald Reagan used to say, well, he endorsed me, I didn't endorse him. And I think that's what Trump should say, something like that. Hey, I'm not endorsing him. If he wants to endorse me, knock himself out. That's not somebody I'm endorsing. But we'll see how that goes. I don't think it hurts him. It's not like he endorsed David Duke.
That's true. It is a different thing. All right, Charlie Daniels wrote a pretty scathing open letter to Congress today. Wondering if you saw that, John, and what you thought of it.
He took the words right out of my mouth. I agreed with everything he said. These guys are incompetent. They're dumb. They prostitute themselves to whoever will put the most money in their campaign coffers. I have to tell you, the Democrats are terrible and the Republicans are just as bad. If it wasn't for a few guys like Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and a few other guys who were up there, Tim Scott, who were doing the right thing, I think most conservatives in the country would abandon hope with these guys. And the sad thing is, you know, it's like they don't learn anything. They don't forget anything. They're terrible. They stay in the same spot. They don't learn anything from the mistakes they're making. It should be Trump's whole run, causing just shivers of fear to run through the backs of all these Republicans in Congress, because they created this with their incompetence, with their stupidity, with their corruption. I don't see that they're learning anything from it. And so he's very right. We have a terrible government in this country, an incompetent government. Just think about the fact that we have to deal with Iran that allows them to inspect their own nuclear sites.
Really?
And tell us that they're okay, and we're going to accept that. Think about it.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. And I think it's fascinating, too, that many of the ways that Trump has made major brownie points, I wrote my column about this in W&D on Sunday, it has been through the social issues that were heretofore undiscussable. John, remember? And folks like you and I were screaming, no, they need to discuss the social issues. The social issues are winning issues. If you even believe there's such a thing as social issues, which I've always argued there aren't, because they all have a fiscal note. But it's those issues, John, that Trump has masterfully worked to his advantage and resonated with the American public. And I think that's pretty interesting, because some of us have been saying that for a long time.
You're absolutely right. The Republican Party, anybody who tells you that it can just run everything on fiscal issues, it's not going to work.
No.
Because the Democrats are going to keep fighting whether you do or not. It's like any other kind of war. You can't say, well, we're not going to fight it if the enemy wants to fight it. Either you're going to have to defend your positions,
right,
or you're going to lose by default.
And
the Republican
in doing
Party
so,
is losing by default.
And making those things undiscussable, they just tried to take them off the table. At least that's my theory. John Hawkins of Right Wing News, thanks so much for being with us. Stay with us, because up next we talk